And how is that feeling now looking back? Looking back on that
Oh,
situation?
it still hurts me. It still scares me. Because, you know, it messed with my head so much. I don't know if it was really real or what I was thinking. And it hurts.
Okay, I understand the councils are all ready for the jury to be brought in, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you'd like the witness placed on the stand in the interim, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Under two, sorry, Ms. Rojas, they drowned you out. Do you want to?
Valerie Rojas for UTT, we're ready for the jury and we have no objection to the witness statements.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, go ahead and have a seat. Thank you.
And Marshall, will you bring the jury in a moment? And as a reminder, we always stand when the jury comes in and leaves.
Is court ready, Your Honor?
Of course we are. Marshall,
Okay.
please bring in our jury panel.
Thank you for standing, everybody, for the jury. Please come in, everyone. Your Honor, all members of the jury are present. Everybody, please be seated.
Okay, appreciate it. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Seeing witnesses on the stand pursuant to our protocol, remind witness you understand you're still under oath and you know there's been a break, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Appreciate it. Thanks very much. Okay, we're ready to commence with cross-examination. Real Water, would you like to commence with your cross-examination of the witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
Feel free to do so.
Good afternoon, Mr. Johannes.
Good afternoon.
My name is Matt Kaufman. I represent one of you that represent Real Water in this case. I'm going to apologize to you. I have my iPad in front here. I don't know if you were here before, but like Mr. Parker, I need glasses, but unfortunately, unlike Mr. Parker, I don't have mine here. So, I'm going to jump around a little bit. One of the things you talked about during your testimony, you mentioned that you were board certified as a life care planner, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And I don't mean this in any way to slight your profession, but that's not the same thing as like a medical board, is it?
No, it's not. It's part of the International Commission of Healthcare Certification, and it's not, but they also have other medical board certification.
Okay, I just wanted to make that distinction, I understand. And you have been board certified for over 30 years, that's correct?
I'm not sure, 30 years, so 1996, I guess that would be.
Getting there, close?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you review, I know you said a couple times you mentioned reviewing Mr. Hunwardsen's medical records. Did you review his bills as well?
I did see some of his bills.
Okay. Did you review all his bills or just some of them?
The ones that were in the file that I looked at, I can't say I've reviewed all of his bills.
Okay. Did you review any medical bills from 2022?
I'd have to refer back to my record. It could have been.
Do you recall reviewing any bills from 2023?
Yes.
Okay. And do you have any idea how much Mr. Hunwardsen spent on medical care in 2023?
Other than the information from the medical bill we've returned back to the UCI facility, other than that, I do not.
Okay. Now, Mark, can you pull up Exhibit 521 and go to page 3, please? I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about the bottom portion of this, your pricing. And you mentioned that you looked at a couple of databases, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And these databases are, they're a collection of medical charges, is that correct?
They are. There's two databases. They're all three databases that include medical charges from non-discounted gross charges, if you will, from medical practices.
And you said you used, and my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that in these databases, the charges are expressed in percentiles?
They are non-discounted and they're located in percentiles.
Okay. So if a charge is in the 50th percentile, that means that 50% of the facilities charge less than that rate, correct?
Right, 50%, equal to or less.
Okay. And the same would be true for if it's in the 75th percentile, that would mean that 75% of facilities charge that rate or less?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, the other thing I wanted to point out to you actually on this page, and this is from your report, correct, sir?
Yes.
And Mr. Hunwardsen's liver transplant was in the fall of 2019?
Yes,
Okay. And we are roughly 4 years later, and according to your report, he has not established care with the primary care physician yet?
my understanding, that's correct.
And that's also true of medical care, is that correct?
It's my understanding, he did have dental care established.
Okay. Did you have any conversations with Dr. Hudson about any aspects of this life care plan that would be applicable to the general population?
We did talk about that, yes.
And did you take anything off your life care plan that would be applicable to the general population?
No, these were specific to the life care plan because according to Dr. Hudson, like in this particular instance, it would be with an internal medicine specialist, and so to be more intensive than the general population, that he would need to be managed.
Okay. And then, Mark, can we go down to, I think it's page, I want to say it's, sorry, scrolling through. Page 28 of this exhibit, please, Mark. And so if you look at, this is your home care option. You have that up there, right, sir? Okay, I just want to make sure you can see the same thing I'm looking at. Now, the cost for this one, for these, you did not use the charge database. Oh, sorry. Let me start over so we get a clean record. For the home care option, you did not use a charge database, correct?
Correct.
This would be an example of a market survey, correct?
This would be an example of research, gathering data
Okay.
and pricing.
And how would you go about gathering this data?
This information would be contacting the residential facility directly and asking specifically their cost and charges.
And that's something that is generally accepted in the life care planning community?
It's one phase of it, that's correct.
Mr. Hunwardsen is a union iron worker, correct?
Yes.
Do you have any idea what kind of OSHA card he holds?
Pardon?
Do you have any idea if he's got like an OSHA 15-hour, an OSHA 20-hour, anything like that?
No, I do not.
Okay. Do you know when Mr. Hunwardsen joined the union?
Not specifically. I understand approximately 2015.
Okay. So he's been in the union roughly almost a decade?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what the vesting time is for an iron worker?
No, I do not.
Okay. Do you know what the average retirement age of an iron worker is?
No.
Okay. Would it be fair to say that iron working is a pretty heavy, sorry, strike that, let me start over. Would it be fair to say that iron working, even setting aside liver transplant, is a pretty heavy duty industry?
Yes, it is.
Are you aware of iron workers routinely working to 67?
A lot of time, I'm familiar with iron workers from different projects I've been on as part of my clinical company. And as far as that 67, I don't know anyone specific. A lot of times there's a gradual progression in the iron working world as they go up to foreman and supervisor.
Okay, so actually let's talk about that. Part of what your opinion is as far as future loss earning income is that after age 40, Mr. Hunwardsen will be unable to work as an iron worker, correct?
And that's the opinion based on my consultation with Dr. Hudson.
Of course, I apologize. I'm not trying to assert that you are independently doing that. Given that, is it possible that Mr. Hunwardsen could move up in the union before 40 into a less rigorous position?
As far as the infrastructure union, I'm not familiar with it. It is possible. I know my discussion with him, he primarily wanted to remain as an iron worker and didn't have desire to continue to be a supervisor.
Okay. Is it fair, my understanding is too, based on your, straight that. See, were you provided Mr. Hunwardsen's tax returns for 2019?
I was provided pay stubs
Were-
and I'd have to look back at the record as far as his tax record. The one I do recall is maybe in 2018, where he earned $101,000.
Okay. Did you see any tax returns or documentation from Mr. Hunwardsen's earnings in 2016?
No, sir.
What about 2017?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Mark, can you pull up exhibit 381? Now, this is one, I apologize, this is one I definitely need to look on my iPad. I can't read that. I wanted, there's an asterisk in the 1, 2, 3, it looks like the -1 column. Do you see that, sir?
Yes,
And if I go down, it says data was not provided. Are you saying that they did not provide you with Mr. Hunwardsen's earnings from 2022?
I don't have any record.
Okay. And my understanding is that his earnings in 2023 were about $78,000, and that was through August of 2023, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, just let me flip through my notes real fast here. Oh, I know what I want to ask you. You said you did two assessments with Mr. Hunwardsen, correct?
Well, I did 2 initial interviews with him. Correct.
Sure, sorry, yeah, whatever term you want to use, I'm not trying to stick you to any language. If I recall from your deposition, one of them was to, take a look at his home, is that correct?
Yes.
And did you see anything in his house that needed remodeling currently?
No, sir.
And he's currently independent in all his ADLs, correct?
Yes, fortunately.
And for the jury, you and I probably know these, can you explain what ADLs are?
Sure. As I was mentioning, activities of daily living, like bathing, dressing, those types of things, and hygiene.
The one thing I did notice as far as home care in your life care plan, was that Mr. Hunwardsen hires a tree company to trim his palm trees. Do you know if that predated his transplant?
No, I do not.
Okay. I believe that's all the questions I have for you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
ETT, any questions for this witness?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Thank you. Your direct counsel? Bless you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a few follow-ups. Mr. Uhas. If data regarding the average cost is available, is that the best resource to consult in your field of life care planning?
Objection, vague.
Join.
Sustained.
You were asked questions about the home care options and the cost of the home health care option. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And you said for those, you called the different providers who provide those types of services to determine the typical cost for that type of care, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Are there billing codes? Is there data available in the databases for those types of costs?
No, there's not. A lot of times, we'll make direct calls in those situations because in the databases, you're not going to find that information of home care. There is a survey called Genworth where you can go and identify certain, hourly fees for attending care services. But the other ones are widely used in the databases, and because of the amount of data that's out there, they tend to be a lot more accurate and be able to provide numbers for me as I'm projecting those costs. It's just not 1 or 2. We could look at that, and again, I used information from Genworth, but I like to back it up and verify that information by calling some facilities directly to make sure I have that information, because it's not on our database.
When there's data available on the database, are there standards governing life care planning with respect to using those types of resources to price out costs?
Objection, beyond scope.
Who would like the questions asked on the post?
I'm sorry, will you repeat that?
If there are pricing available based on the codes and the databases that you looked at, and you consult those, are there standards in the practice that govern that process?
Yes, again, these are resources that are within the life care planning standards. Again, as I explained earlier, when you're costing, you want to make sure you have verifiable and reliable data. So a lot of times we use the databases because it's hundreds of thousands of claims with a particular code. So those tend to be used quite often by life care planners. The phone calls sometimes we'll find a lot more variation because the sampling that we get is usually not true representation. But we try to do our best to make it as accurate as possible in the information we obtain. So part of what I did was verify not only the Genworth data, but made sure that it coincided with what the market said.
And Mr. Uhas, have all the opinions you've offered today been to a reasonable degree of professional certitude?
Absolutely, they have.
Thank you, sir. No further questions.
Okay. Any cross counsel for real water?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Any cross for EPT?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Appreciate it so much. Okay, this witness excused for all purposes, subject to recall.
All purposes, Your Honor.
Real water agrees, Your Honor.
ETC agrees, Your Honor.
Witness excused for all purposes, watch your step on the way down. Thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you.
He's exiting the stand. I'm going to ask counsel for Plaintiffs to call your next witness.
Yes, Your Honor, we would call Tina Hartshorn.
Okay.
You do solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under pains and penalty of perjury.
I do.
Can you have a seat and please state and spell your name for the record?
Tina Hartshorn, TinaHartshorn.
We appreciate it. You've heard court already mentioned some of these same comments to other individuals. One, you already saw you moving the microphone. Thank you so very much. Keep the microphone nice and close to you. Please ensure that there's a question or pause before it answers so we don't have people talking at the same time, so you get a nice clear record. And then none of the, not to be, but not an answer to any questions, please make sure we have an audible response. Appreciate it. Thank you so very much, counsel. Feel free to proceed with your questions on direct examination.
Hi, good afternoon, Tina.
Good afternoon.
So I know you told me you're a little nervous today, but no worries. You just have a few questions today to tell the jury.
Sorry, just since it's the first time you're speaking today, would you mind just stating your name direct, just because you're
No
nice clear
problem.
transcript? No, sorry for the interruption. Go ahead.
No problem. My name is Brianna Switzler, bar number 15653 on behalf of the plaintiffs.
Go ahead, please. Thanks.
So, as I was saying, I know you're a little nervous, but there's no problem. You know, we're just gonna ask a couple questions to go ahead and give the jury a little bit about your experience today. Is this your first time testifying in court?
Yes.
All right, so how about you introduce yourself a little bit to the jury? Tell me about yourself.
All right, I'm a girl from Memphis, Tennessee that moved out here about 20 years ago. I had one friend that lived out here, and when I found out she was here, I asked her, could I come stay with her? She said yes, and probably 3 months later, I decided to move here.
And what drew you in? Was it our lovely sunshiny weather?
Oh, yes.
And so, what do you do?
I'm a bartender.
Okay, and so you spend a lot of time there at work, I'm guessing?
Oh, 8 hours standing.
And so who do you live with here in Las Vegas?
I have my husband, James, and then I have a stepdaughter, Summer.
Oh, perfect. So I know you said you're standing all the time at work, but what are some of the things you like to do when you're not at work?
Sleep, not standing, sleep and shop.
You like shopping? So let's go back to the time period why we're kind of here today. So going back into October of 2020, what got you interested in rail water?
I'm a very health conscious type of person, very self-aware about things. I'm that weird kid that likes to eat vegetables instead of anything else. So when I saw alkaline water is supposed to have a great health benefit, high pH, alkaline, I decided to try it.
And what specifically drew you into real water?
I was listening to News Talk Radio, and there was a commercial. Buy one, get one free. Buy a 5 gallon, you get a 5 gallon free. So I went to their website and ordered 2. So I ended up with 4 5 gallons.
And looking back to October 2020, where were you working at that time?
October 20, I was at Suncoast. I was bartender, everything at the pool,
Okay, so you're outside all the time?
all the time.
And so how much real water would you typically drink in a day?
Probably a gallon, easily a gallon.
And well, this was your first time ordering home delivery for real water, correct?
Yes.
And so after the point when you're drinking real water, is there a time when you noticed or developed any other symptoms?
I was having things going on, but I wasn't for sure what it was. I know that I lived like 20 minutes away from work, and I'd leave the house, run and clock in when I got to work, and had to run immediately to the bathroom. I was urinating a lot, and I was thinking, well, I'm drinking enough water.
What happened after that? What are some of the experiences that followed the next couple of days?
I complained to my doctor about muscle spasms and muscle cramps, and that I was urinating a lot, and then my bowels were impacted, and I thought, that's only a sign of being dehydrated, but I'm drinking all this water, and she would tell me, drink more water, and I'm like, okay.
And, did you have abdominal pain, back pain, anything like that?
My back did eventually start hurting, and I thought it was maybe from bartending, but it was like higher up in my back. And then I know at one time I did throw up. I had a severe stomach cramp, like just like somebody had stabbed me.
And so what had happened maybe about that Friday after you went to your regular doctor appointment?
Okay, so I went to my doctor on Tuesday, just a normal checkup. And Friday, I started feeling like a bobblehead. That's the only way I can explain it. So I thought maybe I have an inner ear infection. So I called my doctor's office, and she's like, well, first they wanted to know which ear. I told them I didn't know which ear. I felt like both. And she's like, it's kind of odd. I'm like, well, I feel like it's in both of them because I'm a bobblehead. That's the only thing I can't walk. My balance is off, so that's why I'm thinking I have an inner ear infection. She recommended that I call back the office on Monday if it didn't get better. I said, okay.
And so after that was on Friday, what happened the next couple days?
Okay, so my husband's been out of town this whole week. I remember calling his mom, telling her that, hey, I don't feel right. I think I might have an inner ear infection. And she's like, okay. And then the kids, which is a 21-year-old and then the stepdaughter, the other one that lives in my house. And the 21-year-old, she's always gone. I told them, well, the 17-year-old, I told her, I said, hey, I'm not feeling well, so don't ask me to come pick you up from anywhere today. I think I have an inner ear infection and I'm not feeling well. She's like, okay. Because you always want to ride going somewhere. So Saturday, my husband's coming back from out of town. He'd been out away training. I drove to the airport to pick him up. And I told him, I said, hey, I'm not feeling well. I don't know what's going on. I feel like I have an inner ear infection. I don't think I can drive home. And he's like, kind of looked at me kind of weird. I was like, no, seriously, I'm wobbly. He's like, okay, I'll drive you home.
So Jameson drove you home?
Mm-hmm.
And what happened when you guys went home?
Friendly reminder, we started to do some of those, yes, no worries. You have no responses, we get you a nice clear record, do appreciate it. Thank you, Councilmember Winokur, yes, we good.
What happened when you and James went home that night?
I got in bed, went back to my bed. I propped all my pillows up so I could be upward. Because again, I didn't know which ear this ear infection was in. He told me he'd fix me some soup. And I said, okay. I have an Apple Watch, I used to, and it would alert me, like go off. And my husband would be like, oh, who's texting you? And I'm like, it's not, it's my watch. And what's it saying? I said, well, it keeps telling me I have a high heart rate. He goes, well, what are you doing? I said, I'm laying in the bed. And so that happened.
So you had an excessive heart rate and then you weren't doing anything?
Exactly.
Okay. And so after you ate the soup, what happened?
Well, I didn't really finish the soup.
Okay.
I told him I was feeling sick. And he's like, well, man, go to the bathroom. And I'm like, I can't walk. He's like, what do you mean? I said, I told you I don't feel right. My head feels like a bobblehead.
So you didn't feel like you could get up and walk to the bathroom?
Not at all.
Okay. So did you end up throwing up that
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Thank you. So after you threw up and you felt like you couldn't walk, what happened after that?
He figured something was wrong. He's like, I want to take you to the hospital. I was like, oh, okay.
So then James took you to the hospital?
Yes, he did.
What hospital? Did
I
you
was
take you to?
Centennial Hills.
Okay. And this was about November 9th or so?
I guess so. I probably, yes.
All right. And what happened when you went to the emergency department?
Well, they put me in a wheelchair, first off. They started asking me all these questions. I told them I couldn't answer them because I couldn't comprehend, I couldn't think. I kept saying that there's something wrong with this water. And I told them I think I have an inner ear infection. I had sharp pains right here. When I urinate, it's a lot. And I don't feel right. And they're like, well, they asked me questions and I told them, I didn't know.
Yeah. And the inner ear infection, that was just your best guess at the time, correct?
Yes.
All right. And so I'm going to show you some medical records. I believe this is stipulated too, but it's going to be exhibit 632.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Appreciate it. Okay, we proceed to that stipulated minute.
Thank you. So Shane, if I can pull up exhibit 632, page 13. Now we have the problem of it being so teeny tiny. I should have taken a book out of Mr. Kaufman and brought some more stuff up for me. But looking at this record, it looks like your AST and ALT levels on here, and Shane's helping me out by blowing that up, but it looks like your AST levels were 2,121, and then your ALT records were 1,375. Is that look correct there?
Yes.
And if we can flip to Shane, page 17 of that same exhibit. Now this one, I believe at the tippy top up there, it says one of the consultations, it shows that you had metabolic predominant encephalopathy. Is that your understanding of the record?
Yes.
And flipping back to the first page of that exhibit, I think ultimately there's a diagnostic thing on there which should show the diagnosis as acute liver failure. Acute hepatitis on there. Scroll up for me. There, we can scroll up a little bit more. All right, see discharge diagnosis there. The top one is says acute hepatitis. Is that your understanding of what you're finally diagnosed with?
Yes.
Okay, and now scrolling back, you're guessing where I was going, to the bottom note there, Shane. So at the very bottom here, it notes that you were paranoid. You started walking up and down the halls and stated that people were trying to hurt you. And if we flip over to page 14 there, Shane, it notes something similar where it says that you're very paranoid, pointing at people thinking that you and other people are trying to kill you. And I know we heard from Dr. Hudson about encephalopathy yesterday, but can you kind of tell me what you're experiencing at this time?
Pretty much what that says. I felt like I was in the twilight zone. My thoughts weren't together. I didn't trust anything, any food, any water, any person that came in my room. To me, it was all real, and it was weird. I was walking the halls because I didn't understand why they were keeping me here in the hospital, and I wanted to go. And of course, I got escorted back, but yeah.
And how is that feeling now looking back?
Now what?
Now looking back on that
Oh,
situation.
it still hurts me. It still scares me. Because, it messed with my head so much. I don't know if it was really real or what I was thinking. And it hurts.
And so after, this was a few days of this, is that correct?
It was a week or 2 weeks, it seemed.
So after about five or so days after experiencing this, you started to eat the hospital food a little bit more, started drinking the hospital water, and did you start to feel a little bit more oriented having your own thoughts back a little bit?
I felt like I'm more back on earth. I figured I had to start getting better if I was going to get out, because they were keeping me there. I felt, yeah,
Yeah. Do you like hospitals?
not at all. Not at all.
And so you spent about 9 days in the hospital, is that right?
Yes.
And right after you were done with, after you were, sorry, strike that. After you were released from the hospital, did your symptoms resolve completely?
I had some brain fog still. Still wasn't sure of anybody. Wasn't sure of any water. And I mean, I started feeling better, yes.
And overall, how has this experience affected you?
I'm a little, I was already self-aware of everything and health conscious of everything, but now really, you know, I'm paranoid of certain things, and I don't know. It's hard. It's hard for me to trust labels. I really go organic. It's making me, you know, look at things in a different glasses and look at things in general differently. And I know I will never go back to a hospital, that's for sure, ever.
Well, thank you so much, Tina. I think that's all the questions I have for now, okay?
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, cross-examination, Bill Watt, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Turn up the unplugged noises here. Ms. Hartshorn, Joel with you. Are you okay? Do you need a minute?
Okay,
You sure?
yes, sir.
Okay. I don't want to cause you any more trouble than you've already been through. Sorry about that. Can you tell the jury where you were working in the fall of 2020 before this incident with the water happened?
Oh, yeah, the fall of 2020, I was at Suncoast.
And you're at the Suncoast Casino. Were you working outdoors?
Yes,
And my understanding is that you were drinking several liters of water a day to stay hydrated.
yes, sir.
And you had a hydro flask, you'd fill it up at home, take it to work.
Yes, sir.
And then, did the hydro flask hold 3 liters or?
No, it's a 40 ounce.
40 ounce, okay. And so you take your 40 ounce to work, use it to stay hydrated during
Yes,
the day, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm sorry, we get into a conversation and then we get a record. My hearing is terrible, so I apologize in advance, but I think that time I got the answer. And so my understanding is you initially got sick, went to an urgent care, right?
No, sir.
And that was a hospital?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you were in the hospital for about 9 days, right?
Pretty much, yes.
And the total of your medical bills is about $173,000. Does that sound right to you?
Yes.
Very sorry that real water made you sick. My understanding is after a couple of days in the hospital, I know that was a horrible experience for you. After a couple of days, you started to eat, you started to feel better, and then eventually you went home after about 9 days, right?
I wasn't eating till about 3 or 4 days, and
3 or 4 days.
I would not drink anything that was not already closed up.
So you wanted it in a sealed container.
Yep.
Good for you.
Yes, sir.
And after you went home, then you followed up with your doctor, right?
Yes, sir.
And you went to some follow-up visits all throughout 2021, pretty much, right?
Yes, sir.
And those are included in the medical bills, right?
I would say so, but I can't guarantee it. I
And
can't
that's
say
not
yes
a
or
trick
no.
question. I just want to make sure that we have all of your medical bills because Real Water is responsible.
I know my doctor says she sent a lot of the medical history, but I cannot recall if she sent the bills.
Okay. But to the best of your understanding, the bills for the whole time you're in the hospital and your aftercare is about $173,000 or $75,000 roughly.
Okay, yes, sir.
I can read you the exact number. I
Yes, sir.
moved away from the page. You completed a fact sheet as part of this case, right?
The fact sheet, response, yes.
Yeah, you were nodding.
I know, I understand, but fact sheet, what did it look like?
It was about 9 pages. You signed it under the penalty of perjury.
Okay.
I showed it to you at your deposition. Does that kind of refresh your recollection?
I don't remember the paper, but yes.
Okay. And again, it's not a trick question. We could show it to you if you need it. But it looks like, according to your fact sheet, the grand total for all of your medical treatment was $173,536.22. Again, it's not a test. Does that sound right to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Again, very sorry for doing this. After your follow-ups, you continue to get better. You're doing fairly well today. Is that fair?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Again, very sorry that you got ill. Lastly, you were here for the start of the trial. You heard Real Water accept responsibility for your injuries, right?
Yes, sir.
And I took your deposition, right? And at that point in time, Real Water had not accepted responsibility. Isn't that also true?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Any cross-examination by ETT?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, then redirect. 5 minutes. Pardon?
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, there being no further questions, is witness excused for all purposes or subject to recall?
For all purposes, Your Honor.
Excuse for all purposes, Joel Wood for Real Water.
Thank you.
Valerie Rojas for ETT, excuse for all.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time. Excuse for all purposes. Just do watch your step on your way down. Appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Counsel for Plaintiff, would you like to call your next witness?
No, we need to approach before we call our next witness.
Pardon?
We need to approach before we call our next witness.
Please approach Madam Clerk, or you can turn on white noise, please. Next witness?
I would like to, Your Honor.
And what would that name be that you'd like to
That would
call?
be Mr. Walters.
Thank you. Marshall, I believe he's out in the hallway.
Okay.
Well, he's going in. Ladies and gentlemen, I didn't forget about you with regards to our timing for next week. That's some of the things I'm gonna have to talk with counsel after you leave for the day today, to get you a better idea on those couple other days, okay? So, we're moving parts, we're trying to make it work.
Okay, Mr. Walters, go ahead, please, the witness stand, please, watch your step going up. Once you're up there, please remain standing, raise your right hand, face the court clerk, and be sworn in.
You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under pain of the penalty of perjury?
I do.
May I have a seat? Please state and spell your name for the record.
My name is Mark Walters, MARKWALTERS.
Good afternoon, Mr. Walters. How are you?
Good afternoon, great, thank you. How are you?
I am good. Mr. Walters, I want to start with you today, and I'll spend maybe 20 minutes, and I think we're going to stop a little earlier today, okay? So I'm going to need you here tomorrow, I guess, a long story short.
I will be here.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Walters, could you please inform the jury here, our jury here, where you work and what you do for your employer?
I'm the Vice President of Purchasing for Terrible Herbst.
And how long have you held that position, Mr. Walters?
It will be 18 years in June.
And you've held that same position 18 years, sir?
It was the Director of Purchasing when I was hired, and then moved into Director of Purchasing and Sales, and then VP of Purchasing and Sales.
Yes, sir.
But all similar or same responsibilities.
Yes, sir. And is it fair to say that in that position, you have some level of responsibility for purchasing and sales of items within or sold within Terrible Herbst locations?
Yes, I do.
And explain to me how that works.
We deal with all major manufacturers, suppliers, as well as like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Frito-Lay, and then all other items that go into the store. So we'll have meetings with different suppliers that provide us products delivered through wholesale distributors.
Yes, sir. And in doing so, do you meet with actual manufacturers of products?
So I meet with people that represent the manufacturer. For example, people that work for Hershey.
Okay. Same with Frito-Lay's, perhaps?
Yes,
Same with Coke or Pepsi?
yes.
And do you have people working under you responsible for doing or assisting you in any way?
I have a price book team that's assisting in putting in the cost in retail making sure the product's scanned at the register.
Yes.
And I do have 2 other people that are underneath me, yes.
All right. And who are the people under you? Can you name those people for
I
me?
have Jason King, who is a director of purchasing, and Ryan Prince, who's the sales support manager.
Ryan Prince,
Yes,
and what's his title again?
sales and support manager.
Now, Mr. Walters, you're aware of why we're here today, correct?
Yes,
And how long have you been aware of this litigation?
I was first made aware in 2021.
All right. And let's be clear, when I ask you a question like that, I appreciate you giving me an answer, but I don't want you to give me an answer that's based upon your conversations with one of your attorneys, okay?
I understand.
Okay, perfect. And so, again, tell me when you realized that this litigation was ongoing?
This litigation was November 22.
Were you aware of the fact that the complaint on behalf of these plaintiffs were filed back in March of 21?
No,
And you said you became aware of this one in November of 22? Is that what you're saying?
that's when my deposition was. That's when I remember signing the deposition for this trial.
Are you saying deposition or declaration?
Sorry, declaration.
Okay. So just to help you with chronology, it's my belief, Mr. Walters, that you signed that declaration on November 21st, 2023.
Correct.
And when you signed that declaration, was that the first time you were aware of this litigation?
No,
Okay, so you were aware of it before you signed the declaration?
not fully aware. I knew there were things happening, but I didn't know the details.
All right. So sometime before November 21st, 2023, you were aware of this litigation, just not the particular details?
Yes,
All right. And were you aware of the fact that because this litigation was ongoing, that you had an obligation to search your records and determine if there was any documents or witnesses, employees perhaps of Terrible's, that you should identify?
yes,
Is it fair to say that prior to, let's go year by year, the complaint was filed in 2021, did you ever look into your records, it would be your hard copy documents, your desktop, your server, anything, to find out if there were any documents related to real water that was related to this case?
yes.
Okay, when do you first recall doing that?
I had a conversation with Chris Kemper in November of 2021.
November of 2021?
Yes,
Okay. Okay, so November of 2021, you had a conversation with Mr. Kemper. And what was that conversation about?
he
Counsel,
asked,
if you will approach, please, Madam Clerk, Clerk, gentle my voice, please. Clarification, so counsel, feel free to proceed with your next question. There was no objection, I think the court need to move on. Go ahead, please.
So are you familiar at all with the plaintiffs that have been here for the last several days?
no,
All right. And so you don't know anything particular about them or this case in terms of their medical care or anything like that?
No.
All right. Do you have, the conversation that you had with Mr. Kemper, that's where we left off,
yes,
did it involve your relationship, when I say your relationship, Terrible's relationship with Real Water?
yes. The questions were, where did we source real water from? Did we have any agreements or contracts?
Did it also include, did you have any communications with Real Water?
Yes,
Did Mr. Kemper ask you that question?
yes, he did.
And what did you tell Mr. Kemper?
After looking on my computer, I told him no.
So in November 2021, you believe you had a conversation with Mr. Kemper, and you informed Mr. Kemper that there were no communications between Real Water and Terrible Herbst.
Yes,
And when you said that, were you saying no communications between you personally, or no communications with your department, the whole purchasing and sales department with Real Water?
with me personally.
Okay. Did you have your subordinates, those working below you, check their hard copies, their emails, anything?
I did not.
Alright. So at that point, at least we know in November of 2020, 21. Thank you. Bless you. Bless you.
Thank you.
At least we know in November of 2021, your subordinates had not checked their hard drives, hard copy files, emails, desktops for communications between Real Water and Terrible, correct?
Not that I'm aware of.
So that's a correct statement?
Yes.
All right. Now, Mr. Walters, and I'm gonna go back and forth today because I'm gonna start off today, but we're gonna finish up tomorrow. Is it fair to say to this jury right now that when you said that in 2021, that in fact, that was an inaccurate statement?
When I said it,
Yes.
I did not see any direct communication in my search with Real Water.
But you have learned since this trial started that in fact, communications in the form of emails existed, correct?
Yes,
And that statement you gave was incorrect, correct? Back in 2021.
yes,
In fact, that was a misrepresentation, correct?
not at the time.
As of today.
No,
As of today, what you said was incorrect. There were communications out there.
yes,
All right. Now, that was approximately 8 months after the litigation started. Why didn't you have your subordinates check their own emails to determine if there were communications between Real Water and Terrible Herbst?
because we have an IT department that was going to take care of that.
Okay, so you believe sometime in, first let's make sure we're clear. In 2021, was Ryan Prince and Jason King working for you?
I would have to verify their employment dates, but I believe they were.
And based upon your testimony thus far, neither of those gentlemen were asked by you to check their records for communications with Real Water, correct?
Correct.
So when you told Mr. Kemper that there were no communications, you had not checked whether or not any of your subordinates actually had communications.
No.
That's a fair statement, what I said?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, when were you told that your IT department would actually do a search of the records at Terrible Herbst?
I was not informed of when they were going to.
All right. Do you know whether or not your IT department actually conducted a search in 2021?
I don't know for a fact, no.
When were you ever told that IT had started some type of search into communications between Real Water and Terrible Herbst?
Yes,
When were you told that?
in 2023.
So 2 years later, and just to keep it in perspective, your declaration is November 21st, 2023. You said you asked in November of 2021. You had the conversation with Mr. Kemper, correct?
Correct.
2 years later, that's when you finally heard that your IT department checked.
Yes,
And for 2 years, this litigation has been going on, and no one, to your knowledge, did a search. Your IT department, Ryan Prince, Jason King, no one.
Objection foundation with this witness, Your Honor.
Sustained based on his prior answers.
I'm sorry. Didn't I say to your knowledge? Let me ask it again, Your Honor. Let me rephrase it. To your knowledge, no one searched during those 2 years, correct?
Objection, no foundation.
Sustained.
Mr. Walters, from 2021, and we'll make it real methodical, Mr. Walters. From November 2021 to November 2023, did you check
No additional times, no.
Thank you. And did you ever inquire between that time period whether or not Mr. Prince checked?
No.
Or Mr. King?
No,
Did you inquire during that period whether or not IT checked?
I did not.
Thank you. And so for 2 years while this litigation was brewing, to your knowledge, or based on your testimony, the people within your department, including yourself, never looked for any additional emails or any other form of communication with Real Water, correct?
Not to my knowledge.
Thank you. In 2021, who was your IT person?
I believe our director of IT was Matthew Rudolph.
And how long did he remain your IT person?
I don't know.
Do you recall when he left?
He's still there. He's still employed.
Is he? Okay. And what's his title?
I would say director of IT.
Where is he on the organizational chart when you consider Brad Sexton?
Brad was brought in as our vice president of information and technology, so Brad would be Matthew's boss.
And Brad Sexton is the chief information officer, is that correct?
Yes.
And how are the responsibilities different between Brad Sexton and Matthew Rudolph?
I am not involved in the IT department.
Fair enough. In November, November of this year, I'm sorry, of 2023, when you informed of additional search, who conducted that search to your knowledge?
In November?
Yes, sir.
I did.
No, I'm not 21, 23.
That search was done by me.
So you did a second search in 2023?
Yes.
Got it. And when you did your second search in 2023, did you locate any additional communications?
The only communications that involved Real Water that I uncovered at that time were 2 recall letters.
Why were you able to pull the recall letters 2 years after your first search?
I don't know.
Did your computer change?
I do have a new laptop, but my email hasn't changed now.
Yeah, okay. The email was the same,
Yes.
and I'm assuming you just downloaded from your archived emails? Is that correct?
When I did the search, I just searched my emails, correct?
Yes, but how did you search your emails?
I searched Outlook.
Okay. Did you use any search terms?
I use Real Water.
Okay. And is that the same thing you did in 2021?
Yes.
So in 2021, you had the same email, used the same search terms, and you got nothing.
Correct.
And then in 2023, right before we start trial, a couple months before we start trial, you find recall notes.
Yes.
Only 2 or 3 pages?
It were, I believe, 2 emails.
Now, you've also learned that after we started trial, after we started picking this jury that we have right here, that your office found 290 pages of documents not previously produced. Is that correct?
Yes.
Which would make your search in 2021 strike that. It would make your communications to Mr. Kemper regarding your search inadequate or inaccurate, correct? I don't want to say that your search was inadequate, but your response to Mr. Kemper would have been inaccurate.
At the time, it was not. I didn't find anything in my email box at the time.
But now, after we start trial, you fine.
With the support of IT.
Right. And for 2 years, to your knowledge, IT never got back to you on checking, and no one in your department got back to you on checking, correct?
Correct.
Would you agree with me, Mr. Walters, that recall letters for real water would have been relevant to this case?
Yes.
And you would agree with me that those documents should have been produced over 2 years ago? When you first checked, at least in November of 21.
Objection. That's asking for a legal involvement. It's also foundation because of that. That's a legal basis that's not outside. So I would say 50.025 and 52.015 for foundation. He doesn't
Okay,
have the
I'm
legal.
speaking, Court does need to sustain it on calls for a legal conclusion, the way that question is
I can
phrased.
rephrase it, Joe. That's an easy one. Do you agree that those documents should have been produced when you were first requested in November of 21, correct?
Seeing on 50.025 and 52.015 for foundation on legal.
So if you know approach Madam Court Clerk, never turn on its white lights.
There were documents and emails regarding free water to you, correct? Invoices.
Yes.
You didn't point that out in 2021, correct?
No.
But then, in fact, you were getting the benefit of free water from real water, and there were invoices to support that, correct?
I was receiving it from Silver Springs.
Real water, correct? You were receiving real water to your house.
Yes.
Thank you. And you had promotional discussions between Mr. Anthony Randolph, correct?
We had a couple, yes.
None of those were reported to Mr. Kemper in 2021?
No.
But in fact, they existed, correct?
Yes.
There were supplier partner emails?
The supplier partner emails were group email for meeting invites.
And they included, again, your name, other employee names from Terribles, and Mr. Anthony Randolph, who we heard from just a day or so ago, correct?
Yes.
And for over 2 years, that information was not provided, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Your Honor, I'm gonna have to go into the documents we spoke about.
It's a good time for you for
This
the
is a good
evening.
time.
Okay, everyone, if you want to give time to write for the evening, councils? Oh, I'm taking silence as yeses.
Yes.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, jury, since that's on your end, right? Okay. Proper assumption? Yeah, okay, okay. So ladies and gentlemen, jury, we're going to recess for the evening. We show you, based on what the court told you last week, 10 a.m. is our best estimate-ish for tomorrow, okay? So ladies and gentlemen, during this overnight recess, you are admonished not to talk or converse among yourselves with anyone else on any subject connected with this trial. You may not read, watch, or listen to any report of or commentary on the trial, or any person or entity connected with the trial by any medium of information, including without limitation, social media, text, tweets, newspapers, television, internet, radio. Anything I'm not saying specifically is also included. Do not visit the scene or the events mentioned during the trial. Do not undertake any research, experimentation, or investigation. Do not do any posting or communications on any social networking sites or anywhere else. Do not do any independent research, including but not limited to internet searches. Do not formally express any opinion on any subject connected with the trial until the case is fully and finally submitted to the time of jury deliberations. With that, we hope you have a very nice, relaxing evening. Thank you so very much.
All rise for the jury, please.
So at this juncture, do you wish the witness to remain? Because we'll have a couple quick scheduling we need to touch base, or do you wish the witness to be excused for the day, realizing he's coming back tomorrow, if that's the agreement of the parties?
He can be excused in terms of the plaintiff now.
And he could be excused, but I would ask him, since he's here, to wait. I have one thing to tell him that was discussed before Your Honor. So
Our interview looks like it might be now partially available, because some people decided to come get their stuff. So we need him to wait in the ante room. It looks like he might be.
Oh, great,
but
yes.
so-
Could he, Your Honor?
Yes, it's fine, make sure. So just watch stuff on your way down. Ante room, first set of double doors, make a left, it should be open.
Thank you, Your Honor.
If it's not, pop your head in back here and let us know, and I'll tell the marshal who's about to walk this way. Marshal, is the anteroom open so the witness can be in there for a few moments? Marshal,
Pardon me?
left anteroom open so the witness can be in there for a few moments? Mr. Polsenberg shaking his head yes, so I think the answer's yes. Pepper shaking his head yes, we got 2 for 2. Okay, we're good. Okay, so, counsel, I'm trying to map out different things because, well, you of course are my most important case right now because you're my most important case right in front of me right now. You can't appreciate the court has other things on its docket. So I've been asked by one of the other trials that was supposed to commence on the 12th, whether or not they're commencing on the 12th, which is why I have to circle back to, in no way rushing you, changing any of your deadlines, etc. We're just trying to get an understanding. You have a best estimate because in fairness to some of your colleagues that are questioning with regards to their cases, you would want the same courtesy if you were teed up right after a case. So, do we think it's going to be on the 12th, on the 13th? I could be very helpful and say the 7th, but I think you're not going to tell me that, so we'll see. I'm always rosy-colored glasses, so who would like to give a heads up to the court? Or is this something that you do have to think about overnight and let the court know first thing in the morning? Like I said, I'm just trying to balance all my cases.
Your Honor, it's probably best for us to let you know first thing in the morning. We're still shooting to finish on Monday,
Okay.
including 2 of the witnesses that your order would like to call out of order. So that's our goal, Your Honor.
And Your Honor, we appreciate that, and that just begs the question, I know the court knows this, but just for the parties that may not, we do have to argue jury instructions, so.
Oh, I know. That's why I'm trying to balance time and effort, and that's why I'm wondering if on Tuesday, since that's a really short day, at most a couple of hours, whether you might be asking the court, would that maybe be appropriate to have the jury be off, argue jury instructions, all but maybe a few ones that might remain, depending on a few witnesses that may be still to come, if you're anticipating where I was going with that, actually, so is. I agree, Your Honor. Is that something you may wish to do on that day? That's why I held off telling the jury, right? Because I need to know what your all's thoughts are. And once again, you have a better understanding than the court does at this juncture of how many actually contested jury instructions there's going to be. Plus the friendly reminder, there's a couple of proposed issues that you all have asked the court to defer, or the court has determined it's appropriate to defer from each, right? That may need to be addressed potentially before the jury gets instructed. So, two-pronged question. When do you think it would go to a jury? And second, what do you want to do about Tuesday the 6th?
Your Honor, Joel, for Roller, I would accept the court's suggestion, and Tuesday the 6th, the jury instructions. I would suspect that the court needs to set a deadline for those other special instructions to be met and conferred by the parties, and the parties to provide the court with either the agreed upon instructions or where they disagree. But I think a briefing schedule is the wrong word. I think an order from the court as to when the court would like those would be helpful to move this process along.
And as far as the day you think it might go to a jury, that would be another helpful thing, since I have to tell the other case from a trial standpoint.
I would think we would need them either by this Friday or Monday, just because I think they're going to be hotly contested. I'm speculating.
I'm sorry,
suspecting.
no. When do you think the whole case will go to a jury? You're saying this Friday or Monday? That's a little different than plaintiff because they're not planning on resting till Monday potentially, so.
Yeah, I think the case might go to the jury on Wednesday, assuming Tuesday is used for jury instructions.
The 7th?
Yes, Your Honor.
With all the witnesses, because ET&T has some witnesses, they may be wanting to
They
put on, and
disagree.
you have closing arguments. Huh?
I don't want to be Valerie Rojas for ETT, I don't want to be overly optimistic here. We'll probably have at least a couple of witnesses, and then of course we'll need time for closing. So
most likely, this looks like it's going to be the 12th or the 13th, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, being
13th.
practical. Well, I appreciate, you can appreciate that unless you all are telling me that your closing arguments are going to be, shall we say, a half hour or less, in lawyer time somehow they seem to, I appreciate people's estimates are estimates, right? But
I'm sorry, half hour or less for,
No, no.
Exactly. I tell you.
Okay. I said unless you're planning on having closing arguments of a half hour or less. I do not anticipate that you're going to have witnesses and closing arguments all on the 7th is what the end of the sentence was going to be, but you all started halfway through my sentence thinking something different. So that was going to be the conclusion of said sentence. That's the reason why the court was saying that I was anticipating you're going to tell me the 12th or 13th. And but you all are in control of how much time you need, and you're in control of how many witnesses you have, and so, pardon? Or dark on the 12th. My apologies, I didn't say the 13th or the 14th. We are dark on the 12th.
yes, Your Honor, I would think the 13th. I could get to the jury.
It'd be great to give it to them on Valentine's Day.
All right, we'll
Show us the love. That'd be great.
Okay, so realistically, sorry, go ahead, Mr. Paul.
Dan Polsenberg,
Mr. Polsenberg, is it yes, this is not a one-horse, one-rider, because this is scheduling folks. So
Right, and
go ahead.
that's just a scheduling question. So
Sure.
what times were you thinking of doing jury instructions on the 6th?
Well, therein lies the challenge. You weren't here when I was going through. The 6th is a lovely full day.
I have seen your calendar and I've heard about it. So I'm thinking, I think you said at one point maybe we'll have 3 hours on the 6th?
At most.
At most, got it.
Here,
Would
it's
it
a
be in
hard-
the
it's a hard
afternoon?
stop.
You guys,
No. Okay, so let me kind of explain where we're at. I currently have a calendar call, i.e. the case that wants to know if it's going the following week and spending a lot of time and effort, right, getting their case prepped up. And since that case, unlike the other, that case is a, this is currently a jury trial. Okay, that case needs to know potentially if it's going to overflow, staying here, etc. Okay? That has I have a calendar call. I have 15, 20, 22, 24 matters. It's a small calendar day on the 6th. Okay? Hard stop, court has to be gone by 2 o'clock on the 6th, okay, from a conflict standpoint. So that means the balance of the time in between the end of my morning calendar and 2 o'clock. That's why I'm trying to see if we can fit in some jury instructions to get those taken care of, which is why the court's trying to get an idea of how many disputed jury instructions there are going to be. Because realistically, if you all agreed to the standard and there's only some few instructions, right, on some of the meatier issues as well as the deferred ones, because the deferred ones, that's why I need to plan whether, why Mr. Odou is asking me about time deadlines, presumably, because he wants to know if it's going to be that day or beforehand, and because then the court was going to have to ask me how much time people need. We're trying to do timing here and to balance it out with the witnesses. So it seems everyone's in agreement that it makes no sense to have the jury come in on the 6th because you're going to utilize the time for outside the jury things. Is that correct?
That sounds great, John.
Yes, Your Honor.
Everyone agrees.
ETT, I'm seeing affirmative nods, I just need to hear verbally.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so circling back, just so everyone's on our current schedule, okay? And I'm going to say this, sorry, for a few moments, just to get the current. And current schedule is partially subject to change because you all know this court, as with every other court, docket is always ever-changing. Earlier I used the term hydra just to have Mr. Kemp smile a
It
little
perked
bit.
him up.
So, under our current estimated timeframes for the jury is tomorrow, 10 a.m., because while I only have 12 matters on my calendar, many of those are Rule 16 conferences, unless your colleagues want to talk really long during a Rule 16 conference. Those can really go rather quicker. On the 1st, we had to add in an OST. The 1st, we're estimated to start at 10 a.m. That's still most likely realistic, depending on the time frame needed for that particular OST. They haven't asked me for a special setting. It's too late for them to ask me for a special setting, so they're going to have no more than pretty much 10 minutes aside. It's straight there on the court's website, okay? And you all know that. Okay. Then on the 2nd, we were supposed to start at 10:30 because I had a matter that had requested 2 hours of time, so we were squishing them in from 8:30 to 10:30. That same matter happens to be the matter that's the new OST for Thursday morning. The court's not going to say anything more, it's a pending matter before the court. One of your colleagues might have some better estimate on times. This court can't say anything, nobody's going to say anything in front of this court's presence because I do not have all parties on that case in front of me, okay? So, that's where we are, and that's what the jury already knows from those are the timeframes. On the 5th, we've moved a lot of things. So the 5th, we can now start at 8:30 if you want to. Everybody's ready to get going. Whether the 5th, we have the jury leave a little bit early and do some jury instructions, might be, but once again, you all told me you had some hard witnesses that need to get taken care of, including some witnesses that are out of order, okay? But you weren't probably expecting an 8:30 start time, so we moved some things to try and get you taken care of there for 8:30, okay? If you want it. If you don't want it, there's other people that do. I just need to know that one pretty quick because as you can appreciate, there's the pleasure of making sure everyone gets taken care of, okay? The 6th was the date that we always knew was going to present a challenge because of
The hard stop and the long one.
the hard stop and the long calendar. And realistically, well, of those 15, a lot of them are status checks. The challenge I really have is, you all have been here, people don't show up, people show up late, people walk in an hour late, okay? I mean, so.
They look like Teddy Parker.
Hey. Only you can get away with that. This day, really. But
Excuse me, no, I said Carl Arnold, he came up to my court recorder and was like, no, that's not permissible because we have to have trial. He was an hour late and he was in here another day, at the same time as our trial. That was the first OSC. This was the second. So he's coming back tomorrow morning.
Hopefully not right before we get started.
Oh, he is. He's
Oh, God.
But I'm just saying, and that's nothing negative, I'm just saying, we're trying to fit in as many people, obviously, as we always do, to take care of everyone on our docket. Another one of your colleagues has asked another case to be moved from the time frame that we were gonna have, so realistically, you already control part of your request, right? But we're taking care of everyone. So, that being said, the 7th is very, 7th, we had told you, we hadn't told you yet the 7th, because I wasn't sure. 7th, we're down to 1 CD case. I've moved a lot of things, taken care of things, advanced things, anyway, it doesn't matter. Got a lot of things done behind the scenes to get things taken care of. 24 hours in a day, getting things taken care of. That being said, so on Thursday the 7th.
That's Wednesday, the 7th.
Pardon?
Wednesday, the 7th.
Sorry, Wednesday, not Thursday, my apologies. They're all blending, who knows what day it is. Okay, Wednesday the 7th. Well, that CD case gets me a status report, I can vacate it and I can start you at 8:30. If they don't, I have to start you at 9:15. Realistically, it's waiting on another case, and that's nothing negative, they get the opportunity to have their full time, it's just, it's a status check on settlement documents. Give me the information, folks, so I can get it taken care of. We're dark the 8th, 9th, and 12th, which is why I was heading over to the 13th. The 13th, because originally if you all scheduled, you were supposed to be done before like the 5th-ish. That's nothing negative, I'm just saying, you can appreciate, we have another long calendar on the 13th, including, oh no, wait, that 4 p.m. special setting, you can vacate. Okay, we're in the process of moving as many things we have. Anyway, right now the 13th is pretty busy as well. But we can try and move, at 4 p.m. we can move. I don't want to go through every single matter on my docket because my wonderful team is sitting here. We got pretrial conferences that day, 4, 14, 18, 21, 22 matters scheduled on that day. That's a typical Tuesday, Thursday. So we're going to move some of those. We're going to take care of some of those. You all can look in your particular dockets to see if some of them involve your firms that maybe we're waiting something for somebody, right? Maybe they can get it to us and then we don't have to have the hearing. That's not a specific call out. I'm not looking at specific ones. I'm just saying it's in general what it is. Which is why I was going for the 13th or 14th that I thought this was going to the jury.
And you may be right, Your Honor. We're going to try to schedule time to meet, confer over the weekend. on the jury instructions. Maybe that will shorten the time we need on Tuesday the 6th. We'll check.
Right, because remember, council, I'm gonna stop you one quick second, because remember you all told me with regards to the videos that are being played, because of not going back to history, right? I might have to stop and start objections, question by question on said videos. Hopefully, maybe you all have worked that all out and that's not going to happen. But that's the last input this court was given with regards to some of those deposition designations that were going to be played by video, that there was not resolution on objections. So that's why the idea that they're just going to quote be played through, maybe they are, hopefully they are, but you all know how many objections you're going to have and want to have those argued. So, okay, so short answer is I'm going to tell the jury, I'm going to tell them I have to wait till Thursday to give them a better idea for next week. That seems to, or at latest Thursday, I can give them an idea. They're going to be dark on the 6th, okay?
Sounds great, Your Honor. And we're gonna check and figure out our own remaining hours for our case in chief, and I think the awarder's gonna do the same, and ETT will do the same, and tomorrow we should have a better understanding of how many more trial hours we need, John.
Right. So we're also trying to determine whether generally people like to have the closings all in one day, not break it up between 2 days. From the court standpoint, I don't have any preference, I don't care. I've done this long enough that very rarely have attorneys told me that they want to break up closing arguments, right? Most people like closing arguments, like juries, closing arguments and going straight to a jury, all back to back. Now, if you all are different, like I said, the court has no preference on it, this is all you all, okay? So, but that's where I'm trying to find a day that you've got lots of time. We have that taken care of, but we're moving things to another, so we just need to get some heads up. Go ahead, Mr. Polsenberg.
Thank you, Your Honor. So looking at Tuesday the 6th, I don't see where we'll have very much time because your staff's probably gonna need a lunch.
My staff will definitely get their state and federally mandated lunch, as they do each and every day, as required by applicable law.
Sure. I heard about that. But so with an hour in there, if your hearings go to 11, we're looking at an hour and then another hour. So I don't, and I've done jury instructions with Will. He's real good, but I don't think he's accurate. He'd be able to get it done that fast.
Okay.
Let me do the shrug I do with Eglet. Sure, whatever. That's it.
Okay. Once again, as you can appreciate, I'm going to have to stop for realistically it's 5 minutes of 5:19, so these do download and get you all out of here, etc. It is.
Yeah, my questions we don't have to have on the right.
Things may move around, right? So remember, cases settle all the time. People request to move hearings, right? So there's a lot of things moving parts. But it would make no sense for this court to try and move things if you're not going to want some time on the 6th, right? So that's why I'm asking you all.
I still think it's better to have the time available, even if it's 2 hours, Your Honor. We've been using the time.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, but let's not think we'll get it done. So we're gonna have to figure out some other time to really do it.
Well, we're gonna work hard over the weekend, then.
Well,
Be very
Council, when you speak to each other, I cannot hear you.
I'm sorry, that was my fault.
I think what you're saying is you're gonna noodle this all overnight as you're enjoying your relaxing dinners at wherever you're planning on going in your respective hotels or other locations tonight. And you're gonna let the court know tomorrow morning before the jury comes in, right? Does that sound like maybe?
Yes, Your Honor.
I have leftover Costco chicken, so if anybody would like to come to my house.
You don't ever have anything but